guess you guys must be feeling a bit dizzy, post having the very good lunch organized by W.Media team. But I'll make sure that you are not sleeping on your chair while listening to me. So past couple of years we have been hearing couple of buzzwords. I'm calling them buzzwords. They are not right now buzzwords, but maybe till last year they were buzzwords. One of them is liquid cooling, and another one of them is digital twin. So I'm going to talk about how these two technology, when they marry to each other, liquid cooling and digital twin, then what is the outcome of it, and how we can leverage that particular digital twin technology to make the liquid cooling adoption in the data centers much faster, much more efficient, and to much wider data center operators. Okay, so let's just begin. So of course, I really need not explain what is the liquid cooling landscape in data centers. Everyone knows very well about it. Be it the direct-to-chip liquid cooling, be it immersion cooling, single phase or multi-phase, whatever it is, or the smaller, I would say, side arm of the liquid cooling in data center, that is real or heat exchangers. But the crux lies in be it whatever technology we talk about. We have AI workloads which are coming in. Janvi was just explaining about it. So AI workloads are increasing, and the TDP of every chip is increasing, and as the this density of the chips is increasing, we need more efficient cooling. Cooling means, of course, the air cooling is not going anywhere. It is going to be there, but again, when we talk about the latest advancements in the chips, for example, NVIDIA announced Vera Rubin, right? So when we talk about 500 kilowatt or 600 kilowatt, or even 1 megawatt contained within a single rack. So of course, air cooling is not something which can really cater to it. So these technologies, liquid cooling, of course, we have seen very good CDUs placed here in stools, or even right in front, some of the other stores. These CDUs and this entire secondary fluid network, coupled with the cold plates which are mounted over the high heat generating components inside the server, they form the basis of the direct-to-chip liquid cooling. Secondly, we talk about immersion cooling, where we have immersion tanks, and all the server racks are placed inside it, and then the complete heat transfer is taking shape there within that particular immersion tank itself. So that's immersion cooling. Of course, it could be a single phase or multi-phase, depending on the way the heat transfer is taking place, and what sort of fluid is being used, and then heat exchanger. So how do we okay, so we have seen the first buzzword, or the first trending item in the data center industry, that is liquid cooling. I'll quickly touch upon the second buzzword which I talked about, that is digital twin. So digital twin, it could be two types of digital twin. You can categorize it either functional digital twin or operational digital twin. A lot of the companies which are even present here, they are making different sort of sensors, or the telemetry equipments. When we talk about the digital twin, which are taking data from some of the telemetry equipment, and giving you live feedback that how much is the flow rate there, how much is the pressure there, what is the temperature. So these are basically telemetry based or operational digital twins. There is a functional digital twin, which is basically the digital twin which works based on simulations. So simulation could be CFD analysis in the backend, which could be running. It could be electromagnetic analysis. It could be finite element analysis. It could be acoustic analysis, which is running. But the whole idea of having the simulation based digital twin is that you don't really need any sort of a physical setup. You don't really need any sort of telemetry sensor. Without having any sort of physical equipment, you can actually predict the performance. You can actually predict the level of I would say challenges being faced by a particular data center, be it inside the data center or be it the outside of the data center. We'll quickly talk about that in the next slide. But when we are talking about these challenges, or these other challenges, I would say these technical terms, we are ultimately doing everything in a virtual system. We are just working on a 3D CAD model or 3D BIM model which is created, and everything is performed on top of that particular BIM model to find out all the performance parameters that we just spoke about. Then now there is a third kind of digital twin, which is basically a marry of operational plus functional, where telemetry based data through IoT sensor it is fed back to your simulation workflow, and then you perform simulation to find out a predictive analytics loop. So that's where the game becomes even more interesting, where we marry these two technologies. Now coming to the the areas where digital twin, simulation based digital twin can really add value into data center. Of course, is it starts from BIM modeling, like I said, that the first step is to create the 3D replica of your data center facility. It starts from there. Then secondly, we need to identify what are the hotspots, what are the challenges inside the data home, and that's where we do internal CFD analysis for that particular replica that we have created for inside of the data hall. Then we talk about what is happening on the outside of the data hall. That is basically outside of the data center building. We have a lot of chillers, our DG sets, cooling towers, VRF audio units, and all sort of different sort of equipments which are there. So when we talk about, sorry, can you play these videos? So these image icons, if you click on them, these are some of the videos. So sorry about the glitch, but basically these equipment which are mounted on the external side of the data hole. Then we also talk about the liquid cooling loop which is there. Sorry, not liquid cooling, the chilled water system loop. I'll come to the liquid cooling in a while. But the chilled water system loop, which is basically there, where we have our chillers, we have our cooling towers, we have our what do you call thermal energy storage tank or buffer tanks. So when we have to really identify, in case of power failure, what is the backup time available to us? Up to how much time do I have before my SRA compliance for the rack goes for toss. So all those kind of things basically can be identified with the help of a chilled water system digital twin that we can create. External equipment we have talked about. Then I'll come to the liquid cooling. Again, direct to chip cooling we have just discussed what exactly it is. We can create a digital twin of a direct to chip liquid cooling system also, wherein the entire network will be modeled. I'll talk about that in next slide. Then liquid immersion cooling, and of course the digital twin doesn't really work only on the I would say the fluid which is moving. It also can model the actual equipment. For example, we are doing with the liquid cooling, direct to chip liquid cooling becoming a new norm. We really have to work a lot of piping work inside the data hall as well as outside of the data hall building. So this particular piping requires seismic compliance. It requires lot of different sort of compliance. So all those compliances can be addressed with the help of the piping stress analysis as well as the hydraulic modeling for that particular piping system itself. And then we can also talk about the acoustic signature, because that is very important. We have different norms which are there in data center industry, that at boundary level be it a silent zone or a commercial zone or a domestic zone, for that there are different norms ranging from 45 dB to 65 dB. So whether the exhaust noise which is getting generated from all our DC data center equipment, be it DC or chiller or anything, whether at the boundary level we are meeting those norms or not. So we can address all of that, but since the topic of the talk is mostly limited to the liquid cooling, so I'll talk about how do you really address the challenges associated with the direct to chip liquid cooling with help of digital twin. So what we do is basically we start with creating what do you call a 1D or a system level model or a network model basically for the entire secondary fluid network, including your CDUs, including all the pumps which are there, all the valves which are there, all the flow meters which are there. Basically, right from your CDU up to the rack, all the equipment we model in detail in a system network, and these could look like some of these objects which are basically represented on the right side of the this particular slide. But what exactly is the purpose? Why we are doing it? So purpose is to identify in the entire secondary fluid network what are the flow rates which are getting delivered at each of the node. When I say each of the node, it's each of not just each of the server, but even at the server level, if there are multiple chips to which the supply of secondary fluid is getting made, so how much is the flow rate which is getting delivered? Do you need some sort of a feedback loop to be created to make sure that the supply is the flow rate is not fluctuating. Okay. Then secondly, we also need to identify how much is the heat transfer which is taking place at the cold plate level or at the server level. So all those kind of things can be answered with help of this sort of a digital twin. Okay. That is just I would say the base of the cake. Okay. When we start doing it, then the game becomes really interesting when we actually talk about the interaction of this particular secondary fluid network with the primary fluid network, which is the air cooling which is there, or the outside chill water system which is actually cooling your air cooled system. So we are talking about an outside cooling loop for your air cooled system, then there is air cooling, and then there is a liquid cooling. How do you integrate all these systems together, and what exactly are the failure points in the entire system? If any particular system goes wrong, if a particular failure or fault is introduced in one of the system, what will be the output or what will be the net you can say effect of that particular failure point or net that particular fault inside the entire data hole? Whether your server is going to go for a downtime, whether you are going to really lose those millions of dollars because of the downtime which is going to occur on the server. So all those kind of things basically can be addressed with the help of that. Not only that, we can even talk about optimizing those cold plates which are being manufactured by some of these companies which are present here. So these cold plates, when we talk about, again, the cold plates can be a very simple a micro channel where the secondary fluid is passing, or it can be a very complicated shape also. There are hexahedroidal different type of shape which are coming, or lot of, I would say, innovation is being made on the cold plate shape itself. But as you increase the complexity of that particular shape, how does it actually impact the heat transfer which is happening on that particular chip, and how the entire system pressure drop is getting affected because of that? So all those kind of ifs and buts can be answered with help of this particular digital twin. In the interest of time, I'll just quickly move on this thing. Can you play this video? Can you play this video? Okay, so while they are trying to play the video, so basically whatever I talked about, that was purely on the liquid cooling, direct-to-chip liquid cooling. Now the second part of liquid cooling, which I would say that which is even more efficient, and which probably currently only a handful of data centers have employed it, but that is the future, considering the way the PDPs for chips are increasing. That will be way to go in the future. So that's immersion cooling. So immersion cooling, it's again, let's just divide the immersion cooling into two segments. One is the single phase immersion cooling, and secondly your two phase immersion cooling. So single phase immersion cooling is where we have an immersion tank. We have maybe something like a CDU which is placed, which will continuously rotate the fluid inside the tank, and the heat transfer will keep on happening with the server for that particular fluid, and the heated fluid is basically moved from one end to the outside, and the new cooled fluid is basically entered into that immersion tank. That is the single phase immersion cooling. But what happens when you really change the orientation of a particular server? What happens if you take the server out for a maintenance? Of course it's ultimately an oil, right? It's a dielectric fluid which is there. So because of that dipping action, or what is the downtime that you can expect in terms of server replacement or maintenance or anything? Even there are ways that you can actually replace that entire fluid without even having any sort of downtime. But what is the effect of that? If there is an event like seismic, seismic event which can happen, right? Particularly in Southeast Asia zone or Japan, or some of these countries which are highly seismic prone countries. So if there is a seismic activity, so because of that, the tank is going to slosh the liquid like anything. So what will be the impact of that on the heat transfer? All those sort of questions can be answered with help of that. Not only that, we are also working with the companies which are manufacturing these coolants, basically these fluids, dielectric fluids. So they can actually address what if we change the viscosity of that particular fluid. What if we change the some of the parameters like density, or some of the parameters on the fluid to actually get the net effect on the actual heat transfer which is taking place on the server. Now that is on the single phase side. Again, the complexity increases when we talk about the multi-phase. So multi-phase is a closed loop system. There is no fluid exchange which is happening on the outside. The heat transfer will happen by the virtue of the phase change which is happening. So whatever the heated fluid which is there, it will change its phase from liquid to gaseous phase, and again it will condense back on the top coil which is there, and fall back inside the loop. So it's a closed loop system. So in that particular system, there again, of course, it's much more efficient, but again, there are, more failure points which could be added there. So how do we actually address those particular failure points? With help of, again, the answer is this digital twin technology. So digital twin will actually, make this entire thing in a virtual, computer environment, and there we'll talk about how this particular phase change is happening. Actually this video is not playing, otherwise you could see that bubble rising from as soon as the temperature of the fluid reaches, let's say in this case we have assumed 48 degrees centigrade. So right when the temperature of the fluid reaches 48 degrees centigrade, the bubbles will start taking shape, and where all those bubbles can move, whether they can interact with the heat sinks or heat pipes which are there in the system, whether they can what do you say, accumulate or on any of the equipment which can further degrade if those heated bubbles are interacting with them. So all those kind of answers can be actually easily made with help of this particular technology. So this is more like you can say a summary of what this digital twin technology for liquid immersion cooling or liquid direct to chip liquid cooling can do for you. It's like I said, it's just a teaser of the real picture. Again, I'm really sorry that some of those videos were not getting played due to some issue, but you could have actually gotten much more a wider idea about how this digital twin technology actually functions, or how this entire thing you can actually visualize without even actually going for a visit on a data center. Right, sitting across in your office, on your system, you can actually see how the the transfer or the entire system is happening. So yeah, that's all from me. If there is anything, I'll be around. We'll be more than happy to connect and discuss and engage with you for any such you can say questions that you might have. Thank you.